Okay, welcome to our third video in this short series on globalization. Now, we defined globalization as a process by which economies, countries around the world have become more interconnected and more interdependent. Well, in this third and final short video, we're going to consider some of the threats, the challenges to globalization in the world economy now. And there's no doubt, I think, that globalization as a process is under quite severe threat. There are many challenges to globalization. Because we're limited in time, I've just chosen four to consider briefly. Fears over increasing inequality, the big controversial debate over corporate tax avoidance, the huge imbalances in trade, the value of trade between nations, and protectionist fears arising from the 2020 pandemic, which of course virtually everything we study in economics will be influenced by what we're seeing happening at the moment in the world crisis. So inequality as a generic idea is really important to study. Inequality both within and between countries is a huge concern for many, and there's a fierce debate about the extent to which globalization has impacted on inequalities of income and also wealth. So income inequality measures the gap between rich and poor in terms of people's disposable incomes, the money they get in from their wages and salaries from work, from their savings, other forms of income. Although per capita incomes have gone up in most countries, there's been a focus on the rising share of income going to the top percentages of the populations. So that's income inequality. Wealth inequality measures the gap again between rich and poor in terms of not the flow of income, but the value of a stock of wealth, be it the value of your property, your house, your share of portfolio, perhaps the value of your savings in a bank account, and any other financial asset. So it's quite important to make a distinction between income and wealth inequality. And we're going to look at this in a separate section of the Head Start course, this concept of inequality. But for now, let's look at some data on measures of inequality across a selection of countries. So this table shows the income share flowing to the poorest 40% of a country's population, the bottom two quintiles if you want to be precise. And in high-income countries such as Norway, South Korea and the UK, this figure is around 20% of total income. The figure for China is 17%, and India has the similar figure for the UK. So the bottom 40% getting around a fifth of the income. But look at the data for Brazil, South Africa, two leading emerging countries in our globalizing world. Indeed, South Africa has the lowest share of any country of income going to the poorest 40%. Only 7% of the income goes to the poorest 40%. South Africa is a country with some of the highest income inequality in the world. So that's the income share of the poorest 40%, a measure of inequality. What about data focused on the richest 1% of a country's population? The share of income flowing to the richest percentile. And there's the figures for Norway, South Korea, UK, around 8 to 12% of income goes to the top 1%. India, it's very high, 21%. And again, very, very high figure for South Africa, and Brazil has the highest figure in the world. Now just take a moment to think about this. In Brazil, the richest 1% of the population claim just under 30% of all the income. Significant figure in terms of income inequality. The gap between rich and poor is evident across all countries. This is a very famous photo, you may well have seen it, taken from Sao Paulo, Brazil's biggest city, and of course it shows the favela juxtaposed with sitting cheek by jowl with some luxury flats with what looks like individualized pools available there. The depth and the scale of the gap between rich and poor illustrated vividly in this photo, and it raises an important question. Has globalization contributed to rising inequalities of income and wealth, and what are the consequences if so. South Africa has the highest income inequality in the world. It might well be worth you taking a little bit more of a detailed look at South Africa. This is a picture, a cityscape of Johannesburg. Find out more about their inequality and the consequences this can have on their economy. The second threat I want to focus on is corporate tax avoidance. This is a hugely important issue, very controversial. The scale and depth of corporate tax avoidance. A large number of companies, a growing number of businesses, such as Amazon, for example, they don't report much profit, so therefore they don't pay much tax, whilst highly profitable companies such as Apple can often use legal accounting schemes to shift profits to other countries with taxes that are lower. And so this is a key concept. Corporate tax avoidance, what does it mean? It involves using legal loopholes to avoid a liability to pay tax to a national government. Now, tax avoidance is legal, whereas tax evasion is illegal. And global multinationals like Starbucks, Amazon, Google, they've faced intensive pressure for their perceived tax avoidance activities. In the UK, it's estimated that corporate tax avoidance is of the order of £6 billion. That's obviously an estimate, highly unlikely to be particularly accurate. The OECD, which is a research organisation, estimates that between 4 and 10% of global tax revenues, somewhere between 100 billion and 240 billion a year, is lost due to tax avoidance. That money could come in very handy for governments, both the developed and particularly perhaps developing emerging nations. And here's a couple of examples. I'm sure if you want to read further on this, just type in corporate tax avoidance and look at some Google News stories. Google revenue hits £1.6 billion, but they only pay $44 million in corporation tax. New study deems Amazon the worst for aggressive tax avoidance. Plenty of news stories that you can look at if you want to. My third threat to globalization is the concept of trade imbalances. So what are trade imbalances? Well, it's a situation that we see in the world economy where some nations have huge trade surpluses, the value of their exports far exceeds the value of their imports, whereas others, it's the reverse. They experience trade deficits. The value of imports is greater than the value of exports. Now, those big imbalances in trade oftentimes help explain the resurgence of protectionism. We have countries like Germany, South Korea, which run enormous trade surpluses every year. United States, United Kingdom, they run big trade deficits. And trade imbalances increase the risk of trade wars, protectionism, and those trade wars, of course, are a threat to globalization. So protectionism is the economic policy of restricting imports from other countries through methods such as an import tariff, maybe an import quota, or a variety of other government interventions. And the risk, I think, a little bit is that trade wars can cause the globalization process to come to a shuddering halt. Finally, a quick look at the extent to which the coronavirus epidemic, which has become a pandemic, is perhaps threatening globalization. The epidemic itself has arrived at a time politically when many countries have already turned inwards, and there's a big danger that the globalization could come under threat. We've already seen, for example, the collapse in air travel. Who knows how long this is going to take to pick up again, but thousands of aircraft grounded in terms of passenger transport, which has been a key feature of globalization, the ability to travel across the world very cheaply. The in-housing of supply chains, if you think about things like the sourcing of pharmaceutical products, vaccines, medical masks, ingredients for virus testing, there's been a huge surge in global demand for those products. And many countries are thinking, well, if there's another pandemic, if there's another epidemic, maybe we need to think about our own in-house supply chains, building up our own capacity, rather than relying on global trade. So globalization perhaps threatened by that. The rise of populism, populist politics, often appealing to a lowest common denominator, may well be a threat to globalisation. And a lot of countries now are thinking about their takeover policies, the extent to which governments will block the takeover of a business in country A by a business in country B because of an inward-looking economic strategy. So the pandemic, in some ways, can be a threat to globalisation. Others who are more optimistic think that actually the pandemic will offer an opportunity for countries to be much more cooperative and collaborative and more open and supportive of each other, which again could support globalisation in the years ahead. So this ends the third video in our short series on globalisation. Please do keep reading around this important issue, particularly as the world economy struggles to adapt to and then emerge from the coronavirus crisis. Now, there are loads of links for further reading and research in the online lesson webpage that brings together these three videos. Okay, thank you.